Today's story is deeply unsettling. It exists in that uncomfortable space where medical science stops offering answers, and something far more disturbing seems to take over. No matter what you personally believe caused what you're about to hear, one thing is undeniable: this case was carefully documented over many years, and to this day, no one has been able to fully explain what happened. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you're in the right place. That's all we do here. We upload every day. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, please gently sneak into the like button's house and replace its shampoo with maple syrup. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Alright, let's begin. In September of 1951, a 53-year-old man named Adolphus Eller carried a large cardboard box from his car into a boarding house in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He walked down a narrow hallway and entered a small room where his 21-year-old daughters, Bobby and Betty, were unpacking their belongings. The twins were buzzing with excitement. They had just moved out of the home they grew up in, leaving behind their parents in a small town about an hour away. Together, they had accepted jobs at a cigarette factory and rented a single room in this boarding house. To them, this felt like independence, like adulthood. For Adolphus, the moment was bittersweet. He was proud of his daughters, but watching them leave home hurt. Still, there was comfort in knowing one thing: they were together because Bobby and Betty had never been apart. Bobby and Betty weren't just close siblings, they were identical twins, and their bond went far beyond what most people would consider normal. Same height, same face, same hairstyle, often even the same clothes. But it didn't stop there. They shared the same interests, the same talents, and almost the same personality. They played piano, sang in school choirs, earned similar grades. It was as if one could not exist without the other. Sometimes, their connection bordered on the impossible. When Bobby once developed a painful tooth abscess, Betty developed the exact same condition at the exact same time, despite it not being contagious. When Bobby needed glasses, Betty insisted on getting glasses too, even though her eyesight was perfectly fine. Any difference between them felt unacceptable. So working the same job, living in the same room, and moving through life as a single unit felt natural. Adolphus quietly hoped adulthood might eventually help them grow independently. But as he looked at their identical smiles that afternoon, he convinced himself this was a healthy step forward. 2 years later, Adolphus was setting the dinner table when someone knocked at the front door. Smiling, he rushed to answer it, expecting to see both of his daughters. Instead, only Bobby was standing there. She was holding a suitcase, and her face looked empty and defeated. When Adolphus asked where Betty was, Bobby quietly explained that she had quit her job at the factory and was moving back home. Betty, she said, was staying behind. This was shocking. The twins never made decisions like this. Bobby refused dinner, went upstairs to her old bedroom, closed the door, and slowly withdrew from the world. Over the next 2 years, Bobby barely left her room. She didn't work. She didn't socialize. She didn't explain what had gone wrong. The once outgoing, energetic young woman became silent, isolated, almost lifeless. But something strange happened whenever Betty visited. The moment Betty walked through the door, Bobby came back to life. She laughed, talked, and felt normal again. But as soon as Betty left, Bobby shut down completely. It became painfully clear that Bobby could not function without her twin. Then, unexpectedly, Betty quit her job and returned home for good. At first, their parents felt relieved. Surely this would fix everything. It didn't. Instead, things became far worse. The twins locked themselves into a single bedroom. They slept in the same bed, moved in perfect synchronization, and never went anywhere alone. If they left the room, they walked shoulder to shoulder. They even used the bathroom together. Sometimes, they spoke in perfect unison without ever looking at one another. Then they stopped eating. Weeks passed, and their weight dropped dangerously low. Psychiatrists diagnosed both women with schizophrenia and prescribed antipsychotic medication. The treatment did nothing. At age 30, Bobby and Betty were involuntarily committed to a psychiatric hospital. There, they improved. They were forced to eat, closely monitored, and most importantly, they were allowed to stay together. But every time they were discharged and returned home, they collapsed again. After more than a year of this cycle, doctors reached a disturbing conclusion. The problem might not be schizophrenia. It might be their bond itself. And so, a drastic decision was made. On April 11, 1962, for the first time in their lives, Bobby and Betty were placed in separate wards on opposite ends of the hospital. They screamed, cried, and begged to be reunited. Hospital staff refused. Just after midnight, at 12:55 a.m., a nurse checking on Bobby found her lying in bed, dead. 5 minutes later, a doctor checked on Betty and found her dead as well. Same position, same time. No injuries, no poison, no disease. Multiple autopsies revealed nothing. The cause of death was officially listed as unknown, but there was one final detail. The twins were not lying straight in their beds. They were angled unnaturally. And when investigators imagined removing the walls between the rooms, they realized something chilling. Bobby and Betty had positioned themselves so that, in death, they were facing each other. No explanation has ever been found, and that is why, to this day, the case of Bobby and Betty remains one of the most disturbing medical mysteries ever recorded. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of today's story in the comments, and if you're looking for another strange case to watch next, I recommend this one right here. Until next time.